Hello, everyone, and I hope you're all well. My name is Tanner Dajne, and I'm the host of Self-Sabotage Solutions. On this podcast, it's my opportunity and my pleasure to be able to share everything I know about self-sabotage, but also to be able to share other people's self-sabotage stories because it's so important that we all know that no matter who we are, where we come from, or what we have experienced in life, that we're all able to overcome self-sabotage. And so I'm very excited because today we have Freedom from Self-Sabotage coach Becca here on the line, and very thankful and grateful to have you on the line, Becca. Can you please just introduce yourself a little bit, then we can kind of go into your story and we can talk about some self sabotage.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. Hey, my name's Becca. I'm from mid-Missouri here in the United States. I don't know who else is going to be watching this. I'm a mother of two little girls and a hunter with my husband.
Hmm.
We also live in a small home on a little small 3-acre lot. So growing homegrown foods, which is really big for me. Health is a very big and important thing in our lives. I'm a dental hygienist by day, and then I also do self-sabotage coach on the side. Um, Definitely quickly growing with that, and I love it because the information we have to share is very important and very, very important to me and my family, as well as some of my friends like yourself.
Awesome. Yeah, I love that, and it's so cool that you guys do hunting and you live off the land. That's
Yeah,
something me and my wife eventually want to do is be able to buy our own land and have our own garden and stuff. So that's really cool. We'll have to talk a little bit about that.
yeah, absolutely.
Great. So you know, where did you kind of like start with your journey? Like, because where do you want to start with like your self-sabotage journey? Like, where do you think you know, like where were some areas you were self-sabotaging? Like, where do you like find like, or when did you realize you need to start making changes? And was it hard making those changes? And then like, what helped you make the changes?
You know, the biggest thing that switched my life over, and I've always been a very holistic person. My family had some medical injuries from different things. And I've always steered more towards nature. And since I was a kid, I mean, I was the kid that was out in the creeks talking to plants and hanging out with animals more than I was people. So I was kind of a weirdo, I guess most people would say. But really when I started having kids, because I got thrown into it's not just about me, it's about my kids now. And so went into more of a research dive of the foods that I was eating. I was pretty healthy anyway, but or what I thought was healthy that really wasn't. And then I started looking at more labels and I started to dive into childcare, even like, the things that my kids are seeing, the things that my kids are being exposed to. And so when I went down that alley, I slowly started trickling into even more areas of like the health, psychology. I looked into better ways to make myself a more conscious mother. And in doing that, it's so crazy because I stumbled onto most of Jason's things just by happenstance. I mean, nothing's coincidence in my opinion, but his stuff popped up on my Facebook page and I went right down in and it was exactly what I needed at that time. And then looking back now, and I've discussed this with him multiple times of how I sabotaged my entire life starting from when I was a young child, unintentionally, obviously, but still. Um, I went from kind of being a people pleaser. I went from starting off where I was that good kid. I always, was pretty well behaved. I mean, I had my moments, obviously, every kid does, but I watched my brothers and my sister get in trouble so many times that I always kept on the good side, right? Um, and then that kind of snowballed really into high school. And when I started to, I would say even people please in a relationship where I got myself into abusive relationships and that continued until I was 20, 26, 27, and I'm 34 now. Um, but I noticed that a lot of the times that my family, so my mom is an avid smoker. I mean, used to be packs, 2 packs a day. And my dad was a pack a day, and my brother smoked. All of my family has been divorced, like both my brothers and my sister. And in my mind, when I was younger, I wasn't going to get married. I drank because obviously that was the other form of sabotage, right?
Yeah.
And in that drinking, I carried that all the way through my college years to where I was binge drinking every few nights, maybe even every weekend to where
Mhm.
I would, ace a test and I'd go celebrate and have shots. And I mean, I literally would make my relationships even worse from that. It's, I don't know, almost bizarre to look back on
Mhm.
now and how I would put blame. I mean, I still was in terrible relationships, but I would put blame even though some of those things were my fault too. So it's a lot of growth there.
Yeah, that's super interesting. And um yeah, I definitely understand like the alcohol, and like I went really hard on the alcohol when I was in college, and like it started turning to like every single day, and I was like I gotta stop this. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. What was your turning point? Did you switch during kids or right after college or what?
so it was after college. I didn't really get a job with my degree. I got an economics degree, and I couldn't get a job with my degree. So I was just like, what am I doing? So I was working at a taco cart, working like the late night shift, like serving like college kids like tacos and stuff.
Yeah.
And so like every night I get home, I'd have like I smoke like some marijuana. I would drink alcohol, and so I just get like twisted every night, go play video games, go party. I was just like wasting my life away, and I was super unhappy. I was super depressed, and I was like, something's got to give. And then I got into some credit card debt and had to move back with my parents. And then like once we moved to like, and my wife, who's my girlfriend at the time, she moved back in with me with my parents, and that was actually like the turning point. Like I had a lot of time to think and start doing
Really?
research, so start to like look into health and things like that. So
So you just decided that, hey, I've got to get out of that
yeah,
groove.
yeah. But
And
then yeah, just like you, kind of like I found Jason's like on Facebook. And I was just like out of nowhere, I was like, yeah, this makes total sense. This is why like
right.
I can't make the changes.
Now, did your wife, did she kind of push you to change? Because I felt too that my relationships had a big effect on the way that one on my self-worth, which, is self-sabotaging anyway, because I always went back to that. I had a very abusive high school relationship, verbally, physically, and that kind of led to the types of people I would date. And then I would sabotage the guys that were really nice and wonderful people. And I would say, no, there's something wrong with you. You're weird, or, come up with some excuse. And then I'd go and date the guy that was, I mean, just terrible to me. And so I don't know. When my husband came along, he was the guy that was like, I love you just the way you are. You don't have to change. You don't have to be, I'm not going to hurt you type of thing. And I think it took not only that, but also realizing that self-worth was big for me. Like I had to do something better.
Yeah, that's kind of similar to me and my wife. So like my wife had a lot of like depression. Like she had like cut herself a lot and stuff like that. And so, I was kind of like there for her, like, I love you no matter what. And I was there through
Right.
her like through some really hard times. Luckily, we both kind of decided to go on that journey together to start like getting
Cool.
healthier. And I know like a lot of people break up or get divorced or those sorts of things because one person wants to change, the other person doesn't. So
Yeah,
very thankful we were able to do that together.
that's good. Yeah, usually you have that back and forth of you're getting too better for me, you're too good, and they'll
Yeah.
pull you back down. I had a lot of that when I was going through college, or the opposite effect of I'm better than you, so figure, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
do
Mhm.
you want to party more or do you want to come hang out with me and do real life things? And I wasn't, apparently at that time, sabotaging. I wasn't ready for that.
Yeah, all about the party.
Yeah. Yeah, it was all about the party. It
Yeah.
was, every weekend. I mean, we lived for Friday and Saturday nights. And I remember, my husband, when we met, we had still drank, we had those habits. And then once kids came around, it was, I mean, as everybody knows, hangovers are terrible and they're worse when you have kids because you have to go and actually be an adult. I mean, you're there for them. It's not about drinking anymore. And I think that was a really good mindset for me because I realized, hey, if I can't show up for them, then who am I showing up for? And that was the ultimate reason for me to say, I don't really need this. It started where I would make excuses where I would drink because it was a holiday, right? And
Yeah.
I can just have one. And then I got to the point where I reduced my self-sabotage so much that people will ask me and they'll say, "Well, what are you?" Because I all my family members drink, all of them
Mhm.
do. Um, and they would ask me, well, what are you, we just not drinking anymore? Like, that's weird. Becca doesn't drink, which it is out of the norm.
Right.
And I would say, you know what? It doesn't make me feel good.
Mm-hmm.
So sorry. Not sorry, but sorry. That's the way I live my life anymore. And you can accept me for who I am, or you can make fun of me. And I didn't, like, none of that mattered to me anymore. I had trained myself enough to be ready for those battles and to tell myself that I was doing better, you know?
Right. Mm-hmm. So how did you train yourself? Was it just like by like changing your thinking and like the story you were telling yourself?
Yeah. And I've always been into, as a spiritual person, I've been into giving myself love, never enough growing up through my college years and my high school college years, because my self-worth wasn't there. But it was always very big on like affirmations. I was big on grounding, like walking barefoot outside. And then when I started my self-sabotage journey, doing the hypnosis, doing the affirmations, and I do it every day. It doesn't matter which ones, whether it's more self-love I'm needing, whether it's about how strong my body is. And I started talking to myself as a good person, telling myself like it's okay to make mistakes. And I do this to my kids too now, because as a kid, or I would say as my parents were growing up, for our lifestyle, my parents owned a gas station and a car wash. And so between my mom and my dad running a gas station and a car wash and a car lot, um, we were always on the go constantly. And I mean, I lived in a gas station. lived around people smoking all the time, drinking coffee all the time. I mean, there was nudie magazines on one of the aisles,
Right.
and we played there, and that was my life. I would get off the bus and I would go to the gas station and spend another 3 hours there.
Wow.
And so I don't know, I told myself that I'm good enough for a better life. I'm good
Mm-hmm.
enough for a better relationship. I'm better than what I have, and I know I deserve it. And it took a lot. I mean, I wouldn't say a ton of time, but a lot of time just diving deep into myself and saying, I'm a great mom, especially in motherhood. I'm a
Right.
great mom, and I'm the person that my kids need. They don't need anybody else. I'm the mom for them.
I love that. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
something really important because I know a lot of moms out there. Like I know my wife has struggled with this for a while too. Like just feeling like you're not good enough and
Yeah.
doing something
Yeah.
wrong. Mhm.
And, we forget, women go into motherhood with I mean, it's just fast and furious. Nobody, I mean, you can read all the books you want, and never is your life the same as somebody else's. You can get advice, and that's great, but doesn't mean it's always going to work for you. And so when we go into motherhood, I mean, it's a whirlwind, and you find yourself saying, "Am I doing this right? Should I be doing it this way?" Everybody says to do it one way, and you have this opinion on the other side, and you're bad at both ways if you do it one or the other. So I had to remind myself too, and tell myself every day that it's okay to take it's okay to take advice, but you don't have to use it. And listen to my intuition. I had to tell myself, listen to my inner spirit, my intuition, and just go with that, because my gut feeling would always come in. And I believe that your gut feeling is a your guide, right?
Yeah.
And that's the way I decided. And so I started training my mind as a mother. Hey, you're a great mother. Motherhood's about teaching your kids that forgiveness and kindness to yourself is
Mhm.
great. It's a good thing. And just knowing that you can sit there and teach your kids the mindset of a better life in general.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's so important because as we both know as self-sabotage coaches, our kids mimic our actions and
Yes.
they will just absorb everything they see because they're in that constant hypnosis theta wave brain state. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. What are some of the way, like, you have a 6-month-old, right?
Yeah.
How do you guys do you try to limit your TV, or what's
Yeah.
your yeah,
Yeah. We every once in a while we'll have the TV on and he'll just be completely like fixed
zoned
on it.
in?
And we're like, okay, this is not good. We got to turn this thing off because like we can just like see him like literally getting like hypnotized with the thing. And we're like,
Right?
we'll like Oliver, and he won't even look at us. He'll just be like completely zoned in on it. And we're
Ugh,
like, this is just like terrible. So we really try to limit like any TV.
and it's
Yeah.
hard. I mean, really, what I have a lot of moms, they're like, "Well, you don't do any TV," and I said, "No, it's this day and age, we live in a technology type world, right? And at my daycare, because my kids go to daycare still, and they see TV all the time. I mean, all sorts of Disney stuff, and some of it I don't agree with, but I can't control that. And so I remind parents all the time, like, hey, control what you can, give what you can at home, but don't try, try not to stress that they're, if they're in other places that you can't reverse that. And I have to remind myself that too. But with our TV, I do selective stuff, I don't do certain ones that give like a timeline of, hey, you know, one you only have one parent, because that typically is the way it goes. One parent dies, or and then you have the poor pitiful me peasant type of person, like the princess that can't ever be, I don't know, like that wealth, showing that wealth isn't good, all the bad people that are wealthy aren't good. And
Yeah.
I pay attention to that stuff. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely know what you're talking about. Yeah, there's a lot of those. Sometimes it's hard to like sift through because I really was like, oh, this is not good. No, this is not good. This is bad.
We're gonna go be Amish and not have a TV. I mean, that's
Yeah.
just really what it comes down to.
I mean, I'm tempted because like that actually sounds like a great lifestyle.
That's right. I agree with you. I mean, I would like electricity. That would be the only thing I'd miss, you know. I like being able to flip on my light.
Yeah, definitely
But
electricity is good, but there's a
yeah.
lot of like that technology that and I think that the thing is important to know that for people out there, like the technology can be used for good or bad, right? Like we can have
Correct.
that the TV to like program us to do negative things. Like we're watching like shows like Shameless, where it's like
Yeah.
a constant like or
Oh,
like Grey's Anatomy or something like it's a constant like
oh, that
shit
was
show.
one I used to
Yeah,
binge watch.
my wife
That
is like was addicted to
I
that.
was too.
Yeah,
One of the ones that we used to watch, oh, and now looking back, I think, oh, that was a terrible thing to do. And it's oh, what was the one, the drug dealer with, was it?
Weeds was that what the one?
No, no, I'm trying to think of
uh
it. What is it?
Breaking Bad.
Walter, yes, that
Yeah,
one,
bro,
Walter
that
White.
one.
I kept thinking of his name. And I binge watched the crap out of that one. And I think, oh man, all the things that I subjected my mind to, and how quickly that stuff goes into your brain. And I mean, it was really this terrible life. And I felt that almost that energy kind of fold over my life too. Like we're always in a rut, or you're always in this fight or flight mode to defend yourself. And I really think it actually affected work wise, just the way that I reacted to other people too, you know.
Like you were being more negative towards them, or like you're
Well,
taking things
negative
harder.
and jumping to assumptions, or instead of, I guess, would say, thinking through like a reaction. Like, say if somebody said something to me and I thought that they were being negative, and I would immediately get into this like, oh well, what am I going to do now,
Yeah.
like this,
Mhm.
I don't know, like a very negative energy with it.
Yeah, like a fighting kind of style. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
a lot of those TV shows that have that, and also just like you were talking about, like things are going good, and all of a sudden something bad happens. Like that's like every TV show or movie, right? Like,
That's right. That's right. And really, in our house, if we're watching anything, it's always like a good kids show that I've picked out. And so a majority of the things that I hear, because the subconscious mind hears things all the time, is kids shows. And then I've even come to where, because I like to work out. Since I was sick this last time, I haven't been as consistent with it, but I don't listen to, I used to listen to rap music
oh
and
yeah,
like hip hop. I can't even, I mean, now I focus so much on those words and how they're training my mind to be, I mean, whether it's, I don't know, gosh, it's just terrible because Cardi B has some hellacious words in
yeah.
her music. But I used to
Mhm.
listen to like Cardi B and I don't know, Bruno Mars, which he isn't, doesn't terrible, but it's always a story. And in the storyline, your subconscious mind listens to that. And
Mhm.
so then if you notice like music, they used to say that country music is always the shot your dog song, or you lost
Yeah.
your dog, because it was always sad.
Mhm.
And then you immediately, because your subconscious mind is listening to that, you get this kind of sadness with the story. Well, what happens when you listen to like that upbeat music? Well, then you get that energy with it too. And so I'm very picky. I actually listen to, oh, what's it called, the best of Eric Turner. He's a motivational speaker, and I just listen to his stuff, and some other motivational speakers too, on repeat, but it's like a compilation of it. And it really gets you to where it's just motivating you and not saying negative words to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so you're replacing like the negative influences in your life with some positive like podcasts and things like
Right.
that.
Right.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's exactly what I was talking about. How there's like we can use that technology for good or for bad, depending on
Right.
how we do it. So yeah, that's
I
awesome.
do you guys work out? Are you like avid workout people? Do you listen to music or did you used to listen to music?
Yeah, so I used to listen to music like literally all the time,
Mm-hmm.
um, like almost all genres. But I started cutting back a lot because when I started going through like my old songs, I'd be like, oh, this one has some bad negative messages. I'm taking this one out. This one does. This one does. And I was like, man, a lot of these songs like doesn't matter if it's like rock, if it's like hip
Yeah.
hop, if it's country, if it's like any of the like genres like bluegrass. Like, a lot of them have like very like negative like things they talk about and just like things I don't want to subject myself to. And once you, that's I think why it's so important. Like people learn about like how we're
What we
influenced like
do.
through the subconscious mind, right?
Yeah.
Because like most people don't know they're just sitting there like programming themselves like for like all the listeners like when you're like listening to a song like over and over and then like you stop listening to it and you also have that song in your head again, that's your
That's
subconscious mind replaying it, right? Exactly.
yes.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I wish and I would love for, I would love for people to realize that you can put there's a lot of positive information, like for instance, the podcast that you listen to, um, whether it's affirmations, there's lots. I listen to Spotify, and I mean, they just have lists of this stuff. You can put affirmations, you could put positive self-talk, you can do like, we know Marissa Peer. She's great. I don't do her meditations until like at night,
Mm-hmm.
but just because I'm more calm at that point in
Right.
time. But even her pep talks, like, she does a great job. There's lots
Oh.
of people on there that you can listen to instead of today's hip hop.
Mm-hmm.
And you and I both know that radio is kind of selective on what they choose to play, you
Yeah.
know? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
if you're listening to the radio for an hour, you're gonna start hearing that same song on repeat. So then the question is what are you listening to that's fueling your life, right? What are you listening to that's your subconscious mind is on repetitive for? And we know that the subconscious mind needs to be you need to have repetitive content for it to start changing.
Yeah.
So what are we putting in it?
Exactly. How I like to think about it is like nature always goes down the path of least resistance,
Mhm.
and the path of least resistance is what's most familiar. So
Yep.
if this song or like that lifestyle is most familiar, you're gonna start going down, be drawn towards like negative eating or negative thinking or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Another thing that I've noticed, I had I wouldn't say a bad group of friends. Growing up, I didn't have a lot of good friends through like my high school years. That I wasn't really close with anybody, and I met some really great college friends. I mean, obviously, it was our drinking friends, but I've come to realize that even as I've changed, they're still accepting, but our conversations are very different because the things that I enjoy um, are not the same as what we used to, right? So you're
Mhm.
going to see as you change, your tribe may change a little bit. I mean, I still love my friends and we still visit,
Right.
but I have found other wonderful people, not just within our group,
Mhm.
but I mean, even locally, I've met up with a mom who's in similar situations and is wanting to reframe her subconscious mind, and we bond so well because we have the same outlook on life. And being around certain people, I've noticed I'm very selective anymore
Mhm.
because I don't like, for instance, you can guard your energy, but your subconscious mind's going to still hear whatever it is that you're around.
Yeah.
Like I'm at work and I still hear country music, whatever the words are in that music, my subconscious mind is taking in,
Mhm.
obviously. But sometimes we can't control that. When you're in the workforce, you are around people who you're around and you can't help that. But
Exactly.
know that you can still reframe it when you go home. It doesn't have to stick forever.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And so when you were talking about how like at nighttime you listen to Marissa Peer, you listen to the hypnosis like when you're going to
Yep.
bed.
Yes, I fall asleep to it. I'm in bed by like 9. I don't stay up past 9. But I co-sleep. So I lay with my girls, and then once they go to sleep, I turn on my hypnosis and I just go to sleep. The theta state is right there, right when we go to sleep and right when we wake up, and it's still taking it in. Um, I've even contemplated playing it for, I mean, it's obviously the girls can hear it, but playing it on speaker, for my girls so that as we're going to the bed, she's speaking and we're all listening to it. But I haven't done that yet.
Yeah, we listen to it like every we used well we haven't for a little while, but for a while that we were just listening for like at least like 100+ days straight. So we're probably gonna
Yeah.
start listening again soon. Just have it playing at night because like we used to actually just fall asleep to it because it was so like
So
we would
nice.
fall asleep so fast. Like
That's I know. It was really a nice sleep, to be honest with you, right in the beginning. Um, Another thing I like to do, I don't know if you play stuff because I'm a person, as a mom, I'm constantly like cooking, cleaning, doing stuff. And when I try not to play the TV, I'll put on, it's called solfeggio music. So it has a certain frequency that it plays to help kind of mellow out the tone of the house. I played that, and I also play just positive affirmation. So it's in the background on repeat. And then I'm just constantly hearing it without even noticing.
yeah, that's a fantastic idea. We right now for our son, I found this earth frequency. It's like 432
Yeah.
hertz. And
Yeah.
I found it on YouTube, and my son, like when he was like 2 months old, just like fell asleep instantly. And
I'm
like
telling you.
ever since then, we saved it and we play it like every time he's going to bed, every time we're trying to get him to calm down, and like it just works like a charm.
I mean, I wish people realize that like we're vibrational beings.
Mhm.
You look at your phone, right? And I think of it this way is your energy from your finger is what runs that phone.
Mhm.
So we're vibrational, we're energetic. And when we're constantly like if you were to go to, let's say, a heavy metal concert, I'm not a fan of that music anyway, but it's very chaotic and what is that word? I don't even know the word to call it. Almost like fuzzy music, right? It's
Yeah.
fuzzy energy and fuzzy frequency, and it vibrates much lower. And so your body responds to that stuff, just
Mhm.
like you said, the earth's frequency, and we live on the earth. So if we can constantly balance ourselves and ground, we do that all the time. I mean, that's my heaven there.
Yeah, that's so important. Yeah, and I totally agree with you. Like, and for like the listeners, think about it like if like imagine like when you like walk into a room and you can kind of feel like people are upset, like you can feel like that negative energy like in the room, right?
Wow.
It's kind of the same thing, like in that we are definitely affected by it. Like they've through quantum physics, they've kind of like found like everyone's made of atoms, but then there's even smaller particles below that. There's three different particles. I can't remember their name because they're like some crazy quantum
Yeah.
particles, but they're just energy vortexes essentially. So everyone's made up of atoms, but then everyone's made
Right.
of these little energy vortexes. So literally, me, you, the computer screen, the wall behind me,
Yes.
it's all energy, and we're all able to influence other things with our energy. So I thought that was really interesting.
It's very interesting, and it's something I love to study, to be honest with you. We do, for my girls, we do, what is it? We do the little kind of tarot cards, they're
Oh
called.
yeah,
Yeah,
tarot cards.
but
Yeah.
we do that, and then we balance like the energy at the night
Uh-huh.
with frequency, and you can do different hertz. But then you're talking about energy. I just recently bought a Faraday cage for
Okay.
our modem. I don't know if you have one of those because it's
Oh,
constantly putting out that energy, right? So the energy of the internet, the Wi-Fi,
hmm. So do you put that on throughout the day or do you just put it on at night?
all the time.
Okay.
It's on all the time, and it only reduces the emissions of it, so sometimes it makes my internet a little wonky, but I'll, take it off for just a split second and put it back on, and then we actually turn off our internet from a certain time frame at night to the morning.
Yeah, same here. Yeah, we don't have that on at all at night.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then we try to hardwire as much as possible. Like, and then we do have some
Ugh.
Wi-Fi going, but we have some Orgonite. Do you know what Orgonite is?
Yeah, I have several of those in my
Yeah.
house,
Yeah. So
for
we got
sure.
some Orgonite hanging around. So we got some of
Cool.
that going for the positive energy as well.
Um, and we talked about with Jason before, just in terms of, I mean, a lot of people think stones are witchery, and I
Mhm.
get that. I get the status behind it, but those are energetic too. So for the listeners, think of it not as like a witchcraft thing. It's not that. It's God made stones, and stones hold energy. Everything in the earth has energy. So if you're feeling like Oh, organite stones, that's crazy. It
Mhm.
really does help. Like, they really do help balance the energy. It's almost like, oh, I don't know. I think there's, like, little wristbands you can use when you're on a plane to help keep you from getting sick, and that's just a stone in one of them, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, speaking of the airplane, when you guys go through like the security terminals, do you guys kind of avoid the whole scan machine? I like me and my wife always opt out and we take the full pat down instead.
So, I have not
Oh,
flown since then, since I've
mhm.
done that extensive of research, and more so because I have young kids and
Right.
we don't travel by plane, we like to drive places. But yeah, I would. I totally would. I
Mhm.
don't wanna be in any, and I work in dental, so I'm around X-rays all the time.
Oh yeah.
I always step out of the room. I don't have it on right now, but I have an organite that I wear
Awesome.
around me. And actually my phone, this is an organite case.
Oh, awesome. I saw
Yeah,
those. I was thinking about a good one.
they're pretty cool. So I actually noticed the change. I'm terrible and I use my phone a lot during the day. Even Jason was like, you have to get, you have to figure out how you're going to do this without using so
Mhm.
much the Wi-Fi. But, um, but this is, oh, what's it called? It's from Russia. Why can't I think of that stone? But anyway, it's a stone from Russia, and it actually is for internet emissions, like Wi-Fi emissions. So the moment that I got this, I put it on and I can feel the difference, like the energy change in my fingers because it's not just soaking it up since it's there all the time. And another thing, there is a disclaimer. I know we're getting way off topic about
That's all
self-sabotage, but
good.
this is part of it,
Yeah, it's all part of it. Yeah.
Um, there is a disclaimer in your phone about how close it's supposed to be to your body
Mhm.
and how much emissions it gives to you in terms of like cancer causing. You have to pop open your little insert and it gives you like, we're not responsible and this is how far it's supposed to be away from yourself, your body, which most people wear put their phones in their pocket
Yeah. Or put it up to their head, or they
or put
have
them up to their head.
or they have the AirPods now.
Yeah, yeah, yep.
Mhm.
It's crazy.
The only way I talk on the phone is either through speaker or through
Yeah,
the headset because
yeah.
don't put it up to my ear at all anymore. Don't even keep it in my pocket unless it's in airplane mode. So,
Yeah, I'm the same, and we put ours on airplane mode at night.
mm, mhm.
Um, but yeah, I really, my self-sabotage really changed after meeting my husband and going from him to diving into kids, and then, I don't know, a big shift in my life,
Right.
and especially recently, we came across we were living in a house that was about $1,500 a month, and it was when I just started listening to Jason, and I said, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to work to live to be poor anymore,
Mhm.
And we're not poor by any means. We weren't struggling, but I came across the deal and I started doing my hypnotherapy for that. And I started doing affirmations on health and wealth and came across a house that we refurbished. And we are now only paying $400 a month.
Wow.
And yeah, cut off a ton of debt and shifting my perspective and my mindset to how can I become my own employer, right?
Mhm.
And I have a lot of backlash, like Jason used to taught it, he taught us
Yeah.
people are going to be, well, don't do that. The naysayers,
Mhm.
that's hard. And I recently looked into investing in real estate and my life is changing. I've reduced our debt significantly. And you can do this with wealth. It doesn't have to be just fitness and health. It can be anything you choose or that you need help with.
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, it's self sabotage is not just one thing, right? It's everything.
Right. It
Yeah,
is.
so it's always like a. I feel like it's usually like a constant. Like I'm still finding some things. I'm like, oh wow, I was sabotaging myself right here. I need to stop
Yeah.
that. So.
It's a constant journey.
Mhm.
It's not just I nicked it and it doesn't come back because it does. You're constantly given an opportunity to self-sabotage on a daily basis,
Right.
whether it is the things that you're listening to or reading, because we all scroll. I mean, we do it as
Mhm.
bad as that is, or your coworkers or your family members. We're always going to have that pushback. And so for me, I go back and forth between like hypnotherapy, affirmations. I always listen to positive podcasts
Mhm.
or some way to educate myself in a podcast.
That's awesome. I think the best investment we can make is investment in ourselves. So that's
I
awesome
agree.
that you are constantly learning. 'Cause, like that's something I've been trying to do too, is like read books or listen to podcasts. or just work
Yeah.
on my own business. So
Yeah. And that's it, you know, when you think about this too, we go into this, I don't have time.
yeah,
And I'm guilty of it too, but we say we don't have time, we don't have time. But if we stop doing the things that created the sabotaging, the TV watching, the scrolling, and we focused on, for instance, our business
mhm,
or what it is that we choose to be on, we'd have the time, you know?
exactly. Yeah, I was exactly that way because like I was, you know, I was I was in debt after college, and I was just like my life, like I don't like my life. But then everything I was doing was not doing, wasn't doing anything to actually change it, right? I was coming home, drinking, smoking, playing video games,
Spending the
partying.
money on the drinking and smoking.
Exactly. And then I was like, why is my life not changing? It's like, well, I wasn't changing my actions.
So do you feel then, like, growing up, were your parents smokers or drinkers, or, like, what took you down that role or that
Yeah.
path?
My parents, I mean, my dad smoked marijuana. My mom would partake every once in a while, and like they would drink. I
Mhm.
wouldn't say like they drink a ton, but they drank on the weekends, or like my dad would come home and like have a beer after work and like
Yeah.
watch a hockey game or something. And so I definitely saw that. And then I remember the first time I had alcohol, I was like, this is disgusting. Like, this
Yeah,
is so gross. And I was
I
like,
thought beer was disgusting. I was like,
yeah,
"I'm only drinking it because everybody else is."
exactly. And I think most people are like that, right? They
Yeah,
don't like it, and then they just keep drinking until eventually like their mind's like, okay, we like this because we're addicted to it, right?
right. And
Um,
it's the outlet, you know, we got out
mhm.
of, "Oh, well, I did that when I was drunk."
Yeah,
It's excused, you know?
exactly.
I mean, think about that, all the times we took shots, those are gross. I know
Yep.
they were all gross. It's terrible.
Yeah. I can't believe, I don't think anyone truly likes shots because
No,
they're just disgusting.
no, they are disgusting. Have to tell this funny story. I hope this makes the listeners laugh because I was at a bar, of course, dancing, and dancing was my thing. I still love dancing,
Right.
but now everything's a little changed. And I was at a bar, and this just goes to show my life. It was wild and crazy, and no judgment, please.
No, no
And
judgment.
I took a shot. I had a guy buy me a shot, and it was so gross that I kissed him and spit it back in his mouth. I was like, I knew it was gross. I knew I didn't need another one, but I still did it, you know?
Yep.
That's a terrible idea. My life was chaotic. I mean, I've had a DWI. I knew better than to drink and drive, and I still did it all the time. That was a lot of money, and a big lesson learned. I was thankful that I didn't hurt anybody, but still,
Actually,
yeah.
I had one too, DWAI. I was when I was a minor, I was 17 years old, and I had marijuana in my car, and they ended up giving me a DWAI, and I had to go through all that the alcohol classes, and everyone's like, "Why are you
Yes.
here?" I was like, "Oh, well, I was smoking marijuana." They're like, "You weren't even drinking?" I was like, "No." Um, but at the time, I was drinking more because I was like, I like marijuana more than alcohol.
Yeah.
And then once I was put on probation, I wasn't able to smoke anymore, so I started drinking a ton in college, and that's when
Uh,
a lot of my alcohol started coming.
yeah, and,
um,
sometimes drinking's, you know, they say it's the hardest addiction to get off
mhm.
of, and it's the most dangerous because of the alcohol and its effect on, like, your liver and all that stuff.
I mean, it's a neurotoxin, so
Yeah,
it's
mhm,
super dangerous. And I mean, probably the reason why it's the most hard to come off of is because you just think about all the people doing it, all the
mhm.
advertisements, but almost every single TV show and movie, like, will
Yeah.
have alcohol at some point. Like, even a lot of the cartoons or like kids stuff, they'll have like some kind of
Yes.
alcohol, like in the background or something like that.
You just brought this up. We were at my parents' house last week because our sitter was out, and we were watching The Croods,
Oh, yeah.
and it was the second one. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
I'm not sure if I've seen the second. I know I've seen the first one.
Okay, so the second one, it has a scene, and I got, you know, we obviously pay attention, and the scene is the family is eating like profusely. They don't eat, you know, because they don't eat all the time. That it's limited, and they get to this land where there's like food and fruits and stuff, and they binge eat, but it's like they're on this like addictive. I mean, like their eyes are getting bugged out, and it's like this weird warpy world type of thing. I was like, oh, so they're making it seem like they're on, you know, some
Drugs
sort
or
of
something.
chemical
Yeah.
drug. Like my kids are probably wondering, why is that? Why are they doing that?
You're probably laughing like, oh, that looks so fun.
And I know, and here I am like, oh.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's exactly what our kids like see. And they're,
Mhm.
even if they don't even realize what it is, their
No
subconscious
idea.
mind is keeping an eye on it. And then like next time they're like their friends like, hey, you want to do this like shrooms
This.
or something? And they're like, okay, yeah, let's do it.
Okay, yeah, you remember that Cruise movie? It's kind of like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So at the beginning of your story, you talked about like food and like how you thought you were eating healthy, but then you realized you actually weren't eating as healthy. So can you,
Ah,
I'm sure people are probably like interested, like I think a lot of people are like, oh yeah, I'm eating healthy, but then they actually don't realize what they are eating. So can you kind of explain like what you found
yeah,
out or what you were changed?
yeah. So processed foods, especially, I mean, unless you're eating whole foods and organic meats, like where you, and honestly, when they say organic, I'm not so sure that I believe that all of it's organic.
Mhm.
But if you're not understanding like where the sources of your meat where it's coming from, I'm a person that and I don't say I don't eat a lot of meat. I eat meat because we hunt, but we eat what we hunt, a majority of things. And if we want beef, we buy like organic grass-fed beef. But even in the things like we have, what is it? A common food because we don't eat much anymore like that. Let's say, okay, here's one. If you open up a can of cherries,
Mhm.
okay, cherries are red, right? Not that many people eat this, but if you look at the ingredients, a majority of the time it's going to say red dye 40.
Yeah.
You'd think that you were when you were buying a can of cherries, just regular cherries, canned cherries, that you wouldn't have any added color, you know?
Yep. Oh, another
Yeah.
perfect example. People do eat all this pickles. You know, they usually
Yeah.
have yellow dye in them
Yeah.
or
And
jalapenos.
polysorbate
Yep.
80. That's
Mm-hmm.
terrible for you.
Yeah, and you can easily get it. There's like a brand I get that uses turmeric
Yeah.
or some other kind of like herb or spice to keep it that color instead.
Yeah. And you know, it's latent in all of our kids' foods, especially. Um, you know, a box of macaroni and cheese, Kraft macaroni and cheese has junk in it. You know, you go to and I that I look for of toxic ingredients, not only in skincare, you know, or not only in food, but skincare, hair care. I I don't play around with that stuff because you know as well as I do, red dye is causes ADHD. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, but we put it in nearly every single thing. And
Yep.
I mean nearly everything. If it's not red, it's blue or yellow. And that does
Mm-hmm.
just the same thing.
Yep. And then they give us pills instead of actually addressing the root cause. Like that's my
Right?
biggest problem with like a lot of the medical industry, right? Is
Right.
like instead of actually addressing the root cause of the problem, they just use some kind of drugs or prescription medicine to
Right.
cover it up, like band-aid it.
Yeah, and it doesn't do anything. You know, my brother had the best analogy. He's in the military, he's a retired Army Ranger, 20 years. And he said he had gone to, because, you know, he's had a lot of ailments and surgeries and stuff just from stress life, you know. And he had gone to a doctor. He was having pain in his shoulder. And he said, and I guess, I mean, it's very common to just give prescription drugs of, um, you know, painkillers all the time, apparently in the military. And he goes, I went in, I I wanted a solution. And he goes, the doctor's like, so what pain medicine do you prefer? He didn't even go through any of the scenarios of what he could do to fix it. And my brother said, Doc, imagine me having my arm stuck in a car door. He goes, I don't want pain meds. I want you to open the damn door.
Yeah, that's
And
awesome.
I
That's a
was
great
like,
analogy.
that's a great analogy. And he goes, I pretty, that doctor looked at me like, wow, you know, I've never had anybody say that. And because people just go for painkillers. That's what they're
Yeah.
used to. It's tossed at people,
Yeah.
much like any other pharmaceutical drug.
Mhm. Yeah, I completely agree. And actually reminds me of like, well, kind of back on the
The
food
food.
because I was thinking about that a post I saw on your Facebook talking about Halloween candy.
Yeah.
That was me
Ooh,
and my wife were just actually just talking about it, and then I saw your post, and I was like, "Wow, look at this!"
that's perfect.
Yeah. So, like, you want to talk to
Oh,
the listeners about what that was about?
yes. Okay. So if you look at Halloween candy, let's just say candy in general.
Yep.
Okay, Skittles. It has every color under the sun. M&M's has every color. I mean, I'm talking like junk color, red dye, blue dye. I'm sure there's others. I haven't looked back at it since then. And then you think of, okay, the varieties of candies that they're passing out. And let's just put chocolate. Chocolate is the one thing that I have reverted back and forth to. That's my ultimate self-sabotage because it's a habit that is constantly put in front of me at work. And so I have to do hypnotherapy on it tremendously for it and just remind myself that I don't need it. But chocolate even, I mean, it's caffeine. And you and I both know that caffeine, stresses your adrenals, puts you in fight or flight mode all the time. But we're giving this to our kids, and we're saying, okay, we practice healthy and all the time, and then we wonder why we revert back to being sick because we just poisoned our bodies with pardon me, but a shit ton of candy. And I
Yeah.
mean pounds of candy. It's not just here's a few pieces, it's pounds worth.
Hmm.
And so, one of the things that we do that I put on my post was I find an alternative because here's the thing, and this is the part that I have trouble with is that society, and especially kids, because they don't understand at this age. My kids are 4 and 2. So my 4-year-old goes to daycare. Daycare talks about not even just daycare, society, everybody. My mom and my dad are like, what are you doing for Halloween? Are you ready to go out trick or treating and get candy?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's training their subconscious mind that that's what we do. Like
Hmm.
that's the norm. And it is normalized. And then we say, okay, here's all this candy. Here's the poison that you're going to give yourself and hope that you don't get sick
Yeah.
later. I mean, this is quote unquote flu season, whether you want to believe in that or
Hmm.
not. But is it really just is it flu season, or is that we're poisoning our bodies in the season that this happens? Whether it's vaccinations, whether it's food, is our bodies just showing a detox? But like, I mean, that's what we do when we detox or we're trying to get rid of something. The body is going into like fever mode, or cough or congestion. It's trying to rid itself. It's trying to flush out everything. But with in terms of candy, we went to the alternative, and it's not still not perfect. It still has sugar. Sugar, it's more natural sugar. It's not the processed bleach sugar, but we do what we call Yum Earth.
Yeah.
And so they have natural dyes. It's nothing, it's all
Hmm.
from like turmeric, like you said. I think they have
Beets.
some blueberry based ones. And that's what we like. I threw half the candy away.
Hmm.
I gave them like a piece or two of chocolate because that's what they saw first and wanted. And then I threw half of it away. And I replaced it with all the Yum Earth stuff so that they don't feel like they're left out since it's so common that I don't want them to think, well, my mom never let us do anything. And I don't want them to feel that they can't try stuff.
Yeah.
But I also explain to my children every time we eat candy, whether it's the cleaner kind or not, that this doesn't fuel our body. This is not nutrient based. Our body can't grow on this and it doesn't help us. And that's the way I approach it.
Yep. That's awesome. And there's actually a cool way I learned from Mercer Peer that you can kind of like show kids like how like candy or certain things can affect you through muscle
Really?
testing. So it's
Yeah.
like if you like hold the candy out in your hand like this and someone pushes down on your arm, if it's something that weakens you, your arm will give in a lot easier. But if it's something that makes
Right.
you stronger, you'll be able to keep your arm up a lot easier.
Cool. I didn't know that. I mean, I've known of muscle testing, but I never thought to do it with candy. That's a
Yeah.
brilliant idea.
And so like I was watching this one that she was doing, and she was like putting like margarine in people's hands and like refined sugars and stuff. And they like there's like grown men that she was just barely pushing on their arms, and they were just going down. And they're like, I can't keep my arm up. And they're like, and then she put like something good, and they're like, oh, yeah, no problem at all.
You're gonna have to send me that. It's like,
Yeah, I'll see if I can find it.
is it on her, is it on YouTube or
I can't remember where I found that. I'll have to try to look around for it and see if I can
cool.
send it to you. But yeah, muscle testing is really awesome.
I
Me
love
and my
it.
wife do it every day. So
Yeah, cool. Very cool.
yeah, I
So
recommend looking to it. Mhm.
what are your eating habits like then? Do you mostly like as raw as you can? I'm interested.
Yeah, so we eat pretty much all organic. Um,
Right.
we do look for like if we're gonna have like first like when we started looking into it, we just cut out all gluten, all
Yep.
dairy. But once we started to actually like go organic, and then we looked at doing like raw options. So we started having like raw milk and raw like cheeses, and we noticed like we don't have like the same problems we did with other milks or cheeses.
Because
So
they're so
we
processed.
yeah, and so there's also something that's interesting. So when like when the milk is pasteurized, there's
Mhm.
actually a an enzyme in it that helps you break down. I think it's called lactase. Helps you
Mhm.
break down like that's why people are lactose intolerant because they don't have this
Right.
enzyme because everything is pasteurized, right? So when you're having these pasteurized milks, you're literally getting it, but you don't get the enzyme that helps you break it down. So when you have the raw
Interesting.
stuff, you're able to actually break it down because you have that enzyme. So like pasteurization is everywhere, right? It's in like our orange juice. It is like
Ugh.
it's everything. Like,
Yes.
so
And
everything.
they make it fear-based to not to
Yep.
drink it the other way. I
Like,
hate
oh,
that.
you're gonna have the bad, you're gonna have bad bacteria. But the thing is, like the pasteurization kills all the good bacteria, and then the bad bacteria usually is more resistant. So like maybe some of the bad bacteria gets killed off, but the bad bacteria is usually more resistant and they will still survive. So like that's like hand sanitizers,
Yeah.
antimicrobial soaps, all those things just kill all the good bacteria and leave like the really bad bacteria that's able to survive left. So most people have like really bad balance of bad bacteria to good bacteria.
That's funny
Um,
that you mentioned that because we don't drink milk for that reason. And it's not because I wouldn't even say that because we just cut it out because we knew it was more inflammatory.
mhm.
And I had no way of getting like raw milk or anything at that time. But we may have to incorporate that because my kids still want to eat cereal, and I know still a lot of the almond milks are
Yeah.
well, they have so many additives unless you can
Mhm.
find a really good brand, which I have found one that I really like, and I think it's like 3 ingredients, I can't remember, but it's really good and it tastes way different than the other almond milks.
Yeah, some of the seed milks are decent alternatives. I think coconut milk would probably be like one of the best, at least in my
Yeah,
opinion. But like the raw milk, if you're gonna be looking at like nutrition wise, will have more nutrition in it and have like good enzymes in it. So that's
yeah,
why we have that when we have like sometimes we have like a protein drink and we
yeah,
have milk within it or something like that every once in a while or something like that. And that's when we
awesome.
have our milk. And then we
So
have like some raw cheeses as well.
where do you source your milk then?
So we have some actually, when we moved down to South Carolina, we were like, oh no, like it's not gonna have this like in Colorado, they have really good like organic like everywhere. Like I have really good organic. So we
Yeah,
were like struggling to find places, but there's actually a couple good like natural alternative like grocery stores. I guess you get like really small little markets.
yeah, that's awesome.
Or that really get them from like places that are around South Carolina, like farmers that like actually like practice, more like they're not necessarily like organic certified,
No,
but
that
like
costs a
the
lot of
yeah,
money
it
to
costs a
do.
lot, but these farmers actually do like the same kind of practices without all this.
God, that's
So
awesome.
yeah,
That's really
so
cool.
exactly. So we went with them, and what I do is like with each product I try, I always muscle test myself to say like, is this going to make myself weaker or stronger? And we don't, get it if it's going to cause us weaker. So
Yeah,
that's kind of how I
cool.
do it. Like that's how I like to test things. It's like through muscle testing. I do think it's really awesome. I'll send you a link and I'll post it in the description down below for people.
Yeah,
I actually
absolutely.
made a YouTube video about this is called the duck bill muscle testing. You can kind of test yourself like that as well. There's the one
Yeah,
like there's so many different kinds of muscle testing. So, but
yeah.
I think you guys will probably find it interesting. But then gluten as well. So we cut out gluten, and what we ended up finding out, we did introduce some gluten back into our life. You ever heard of Ezekiel bread?
Yeah, because it's a whole different ball game with
Yeah,
that.
it's sprouted grains, doesn't
Mhm.
really have like the yeast in it. It's it is actually pretty tasty too. And so we started incorporating some of that back in, and we don't notice any problems with that. And I think also some of the problems with a lot of like the gluten is that like a lot of like the non-organic stuff is sprayed very highly with glyphosate or Roundup
Mhm.
and like a lot of
Mhm.
pesticides and herbicides, and those things just wreak havoc on our bodies. So I think not only is it like the gluten, but it's also just like the Roundup and like
Yeah.
all those pesticides. And like, of course, from looking into health stuff, like just how much we're getting bombarded with toxins, like the products,
Tons.
like the hair stuff, like
Oh,
deodorants,
man.
toothpaste, all of that, right?
All of the things that I used to do, and I wondered why my hair was so terrible and, like, "Oh, that's because I just poisoned it,"
Yeah.
you know? But I think it's good. I mean, for our listeners, like, there are options. Amazon has great options. You can even you can look online for organic things, and they'll ship it to you if
Yeah.
you don't have a store close. Because for us, like, we have an Aldi, we have Walmart too, but all we have is an Aldi and a Walmart, and sometimes, especially lately, they haven't had very much organic food. I mean, it's slim pickings,
Yeah, it's,
sadly.
especially with all like the like Bill Gates is buying a lot of the farmland, and just a lot
Yeah.
of the farms are getting burnt down or bought out, or just
Yes.
shipping issues and things like that. So I think it
Yep.
is important. I actually teamed up. It's not necessarily like whole foods. It's like powders and stuff like that, organic superfood powders. But there's
Yeah.
this company that's based in California and has a bunch of really organic farms, and like they have really good practices. Um, and that's me and my wife have it. So it's like a green juice powder, but it's really
Uh-huh.
cool because like there's a lot of different green juice powders out there on the market. But the way that they like dry this one is with wind instead of like high heat. So it keeps a lot of
Yeah.
the enzymes in the food, which like is really important. So like one of these like power shakes is what they call them. It's like essentially like a green drink, 20 ounces of water, and some scoops of it, and you can just drink it, and it's like kind of like a meal replacement almost because it's essentially like six superfood salads like in one drink. So he's like super high nutrient dense. So me and my wife drink those throughout the day as well as like just eat like good healthy foods. So we
Yeah.
kind of do those and just kind of mix it in with other things. But you know, we're constantly looking for other alternatives. Like always look, keep an eye out for like different kinds of foods and different kinds of things. But you know, something also we also do is like a rotation diet. So like a lot of people just eat the same kinds of foods all the time.
Yeah.
But we try to rotate it. So like if we have chicken one day, we won't have chicken again for at least 4 days. We'll have
Yeah.
chicken, and then we'll have beef, and then we'll have bison, then we'll have, you know, pork or whatever kind of other meat, or we'll have no meat one night, and we'll have like, you know, beans or, you know, something like we'll make it so it's different
Replacement.
variety of foods.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think that's great because, we're constantly, I wouldn't even say bombarded by, like you said, toxins, but different times of the day, even, or different, I don't even say, I kind of go with like the energies of the moon and the shifts. But your body is different and it kind of goes in cycles. So it is very good to switch up your diet and change it out.
And
I
that's something
completely
that
agree.
muscle testing will help a lot too with, because like what I'll do with muscle testing, I'll be like, do I want this today? Like, do I want chicken today? And my body will like, yes or no. And I kind of just go off that. And I know like my body, because our body, and really I think it is like your subconscious mind working with your body, because we know our
Mhm.
subconscious mind controls all bodily functions. Um, but I've had the thought like, am I programmed negatively where my subconscious mind is going to give me a wrong answer? I don't think the subconscious mind is like instantly like trying to be bad, right? It's not trying to give us the wrong answer. It's always trying to look in our best interests. It's
Right,
just sometimes has the wrong information. But at the same time, I think it knows like what foods will make it bad, what foods will make it healthier.
right, right. And too, I think, our, like you said, our subconscious mind controls the body, but we also have this almost like an energetic blueprint that navigates with it. You know what
Mm-hmm.
I mean?
Yep.
Like just with your DNA and how it needs to be, what it needs to be to have to function, and that communicates with the brain or your subconscious mind
Exactly.
too.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of the way I feel like there's such a big connection with the foods we eat and the energies from the food, because food has energy too, and what it really needs to function that day. Like I notice I'll have cravings for meat, right? Or where I'm like, "Oh, I really need that whatever food energy that holds." And that's what I'll make that day because my body's telling me I need this. I need that type of energy.
Yep. Yeah, that's awesome. That's really important to like notice the energies that
Yep.
you are feeling. I learned from Paul Chek. There's like these little like energy crystals you can hang over foods, and they'll
Yes.
start to move more or less. I
Yes.
haven't actually experienced it. I haven't done it myself, but I saw it. And I was like, that totally makes sense. Like I see why it happens.
Yeah, because the stone holds energy. And I have one of those. I have not used it yet. So I'll
Oh
have to
no.
test that theory. Yeah,
Yeah, that's
that'd
awesome.
be cool.
Yep. Okay. Let's see. Is there anything else we want to talk about, or
Hmm. I'm trying to think if there's any things that I've kind of overcome.
oh, I guess one thing that was really important in my life was negative thinking. So I had a lot of negative thinking. Like I would talk down to myself. You know, one example is public
Yes.
speaking. I tell myself I hated it and I was horrible at it. And then,
Yeah.
you know, I would always be in front of the class, like shaking and sweating, like, oh God, like stammering, like, you know, and so obviously it's changed a lot because it just changed my story. So what was some examples for you?
So similar. Okay, so I would believe that my issue with public speaking started in school, and when kids would laugh at you when you'd mess up, and I think I carried that for so long that I thought I was totally bad at it. And so every time, like you, I'd get up in front of people and I would sweat and I would stammer and I'd forget what I was supposed to say. And I always have to have note cards. And I still do that, but I start even with anything really, I start saying, I love that. I'm really good at it. You know, um, for instance, I think, let's take this. I hate winter. I really do. You can ask my husband. Winter's like not my happy zone because I love warm weather. But since, let's say, since last year, since I started reframing my mind, I start saying, I love fall. Fall's my favorite season. Or, winter is amazing. I love the change of seasons. It's my favorite part. And it made things so much easier. And to be honest with you, I use that in our relationship too, like for me and my husband. Um, and I think it's opened up that communication way for us, just mindset frame, because, and this is what I'm trying to teach women, not quite yet, but I'm going to teach women in my Armageddon mom group, is we can support our husbands just by helping us reframe our mind and by helping them reframe our mind. Because my husband and I got into a point where we could almost, I wouldn't even say read each other's mind, but we knew what we needed, what we wanted. And it was one, through communication, two, through positive affirmations, because we say them out loud together, and three, through just resetting what we watch. Like mostly what we watch is hunting shows, which has nothing, I mean, there's really nothing there other than hunting and quiet talking, you know.
Mhm.
Um, but also he still listens to music a little bit, but he doesn't as much, like with the actual words. And then just supporting each other in a positive manner versus saying our life is like we don't have enough money.
Right.
We stop saying that. We just don't do it anymore.
Mhm. Or
You
like
know,
that's expensive.
or
Okay.
I hate that word. I don't even say it to my kids. I just say that's not a priority right now, you
Yep.
know, because I don't want them. I don't know that my parents ever did that to me, but I don't want them ever thinking that we never had enough money to do anything,
Mhm.
even if we don't.
Yep. Yeah, I always sometimes I catch myself saying that. I'm like, oh no, delete. And
It's
I have this
hard.
delete technique. I just delete it and then move
Yeah,
on.
so hard, so hard.
Awesome.
Uh,
Well, what we're gonna say?
and about like the negative self-talk, I think when I found myself doing it the most was when like a situation that was very intimidating to me, or if I was meeting up with somebody that for instance, I have a really good friend and she is, and I don't know why I would ever think this then, and I realize why now, but she is gorgeous, always dresses to a T. And I mean, I would hang out with her and I would find myself saying, man, I'm not as good as her,
Mhm.
or I'm not like Holly. Everybody loves Holly. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I would never hold that against her now by any means, but I realized the things I was doing to myself and making myself feel less. And so now when as I'm going along, and I'm even doing a 21-day challenge in my group, it's a self-love challenge because we as women constantly have that like comparison mode on. Who's the better mom? Who's the, you know, that has the better hair or dresses nicer, or, that type of thing. And for women in general, it's so hard not to get that out of our mindset.
Mhm. Yeah, there's so much program around it. I know my wife struggles with that as well.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's tough. It really is. And I mean, it's purposeful. Obviously, we're breaking up the woman's heart, and we're strong, and we need to be strong enough to support our men and our men to support our women. And I find that that dynamic is very split, very much broken.
Yeah, it's purposeful, and I think there's part of it is like in like a very like evil kind of way, and part of it is like
Yeah.
trying to make money. Like they're trying to make you seem like you're not good enough, so you have to have this new purse, you have to have this new
Yeah.
makeup, you have to have this hairdo, you have to have the new nails, you have to have the fake eyelashes,
Yep.
all the
Yep.
things.
And I'm guilty, like, seriously, I have fake eyelashes on, and I told my husband that's the one self-care that I do, and then even now, I think, "Okay, why did I do it? Did I do it to support myself because it made me feel better,
Mhm.
or was it something that I did in comparison to someone else?"
Right.
And so you really have to dig deep to figure out your whys,
Mhm.
ask yourself, "Are you doing it to just go along with the crowd, or is it something that you truly believe in?"
Right.
And
Yeah, I
that's
love
tough.
that. I completely agree with that. Okay, so I think we've talked about some really good things today. It's been a fantastic talk. For the listeners, what is one thing you want them to, or what is the thing you want them to take away from this talk, if it's anything?
One of the things to take away, I'm gonna go with this as kind of a spiritual thing because the universe will give you back anything that you want. But and first and foremost, you have to ask for it. You have to say how great you are. You have to manifest it in. And I know that some people don't think manifesting is a thing, and I get it, but it truly is bringing a change of vibration to you. And when you start reframing your subconscious mind, the whole world changes. And I'm not kidding, like in terms of relationships, in terms of your self-worth or your health especially, it literally changes your genetic makeup. It changes that the way that your body metabolizes. I mean, it's bigger than you can imagine.
Yeah.
And all you have to do is start. All it takes is a little bit of time, very little time, and consistency.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I completely agree. And for anyone who does believe like, oh, the manifestation is completely like way
Yeah,
off, or affirmations are way off. Remember, like we're all like we were talking about, like we're all energy. We're all made of energy based on the quantum physics that we know now. So we've even proved it with science. So even our thoughts are energy. That's really like, if you think
yeah,
about it, our thoughts or our the words we speak is just energy going out, and they have meaning attached. So our the words and things that we say to ourselves have big impact on the world.
absolutely. Start
Amazing.
your day with intention. Start it with the intention of positivity.
Great. Awesome. Well, Becca, I'm going to put your links down below so all the listeners can
Okay,
find you.
awesome.
You're on Facebook. Are you on any other social medias as well?
Facebook and Instagram. I have a TikTok, but I have not dived in there yet.
I'm kind of on there, but kind of now I'm kind of like, I don't know if I want to do it or not.
I,
So,
mm, I'll do
yeah,
it, maybe.
great. Okay, so yeah, I'll put your
I'll add
links down
them.
below.
Okay.
And then yeah, well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It's been fantastic.
Yeah, anytime. It was great chatting. Thanks.
Great. Thank you.